I'm Fred McMurray, and I'm back with Ray Pillar on Pillar's Principles, asking you or answering the questions that you need to ask yourself before you start a business. So, Ray, today we're going to talk about how many employees will I need? As a small business owner, do I need employees?
That depends on what type of business you are willing to have. So, in the case of like a consultant, all the knowledge is going to be in your wheelhouse. Do you need anybody? Possibly, maybe a secretary or something to filter calls, and you know, um, in in most cases, you probably for how many employees I need is really a growth question for most other business, other than a consulting type business where you're going to be doing everything on your own. Um,
So,
so it's a growth question. So how far are you going to grow? How far do you want to grow? And I can tell you that probably the best way to answer this question is when I started my business, I uh, I hired three employees right off the bat, right from the beginning. And you may say, well, why three? I needed two people to work in the field, and I needed one person to manage those people
okay.
because I knew that the best way I had managed technical people before, but I've never managed maids before. So I felt that that was not part of my knowledge base. Although I had a pretty good idea what it would be like, I wasn't sure. So I had a manager who started and two employees who went out and performed the services on my clients' homes.
All right. So, when I hear this question, I always flash back to the question I've heard you ask 1,000 times, which is, do you want to work in the business or on the business?
Precisely, yes.
So if I'm working in the business, I'm not, in theory, I'm going to need, as you put it, if I'm working in the business, I could be a consultant and all the knowledge comes from pretty much me.
Right.
Um, if I'm working on the business, then I'm going to need more employees.
Yes.
And then what you're saying is there's a growth component to it of how quickly are you going to grow? So if I'm working on the business, from what I'm hearing, I'm probably going to need some admin help. Do I outsource my billing?
You can. Depends. It depends on your growth at that point. You know, if you have two clients, probably not. If you have 100, you probably will. So here again, it depends. And can you grow a consulting type business? In other words, is your knowledge available to other people, or can it be taught that knowledge? And you could have degrees. In other words, if you're consulting in something like an engineering, you have different departments in engineering, and can they uh, be duplicated? In other words, you can have one person who does one part of the engineering project, another person does another. You know, so it can be both. If you're working in the business, in that respect, it can grow, but I would say, in my opinion, it'd be more difficult to grow. Whereas if you think of yourself as working on the business, in other words, your potential thoughts are and not potential, actually your continuous thoughts. If you're working on the business, is growing the business, not work. In other words, if you're working in the business, more than likely you're thinking about the next project, how it's gonna go. If you have other employees working with you, how are you going to hand that particular client over to them, that project over to them? So your thoughts are not continually how I'm going to grow the business when you're working in the business as opposed to working on the business. So working on the business, your thoughts will always be how am I going to grow it? Do I need more employees? How can I get more clients? You know, things like that.
So as I've been listening to you, I know a bunch of coaches, and I was thinking about coaches, and most coaches own their own business. They work in the business. They
Right.
help other people,
Mhm.
and it seems that some of them take that next step and they develop their own coaching program where they're training people, and so they actually make that migration from working in the business to
Right.
working on the business.
Hmm.
All
Yeah,
right.
there's nothing wrong in starting working in the business and begin to work on start working in the business and then start working on the business as but you got to be able to let go. That's one of the keys is to let go. When I say there are projects that you feel that nobody else can do except yourself, and if you don't, if you have that mindset, you're probably not going to grow because you're going to constantly want to uh, be there. I had an opportunity, I've owned electrical contracting companies, and that is one of the reasons I didn't go into that because I knew I would want to be there in the field working with the employees, knowing that only I could do it right and nobody else could do it right. So, um, and that is a a personality that conflicts with entrepreneurial people.
And I know where I've fallen prey in past of it's not that I'm the only one who can do it right. It's that it takes me more time to train somebody else to do what I'm doing than for me to do it.
Yes, and that is the mindset, which may not always be true.
As a tech person, you get that mentality of I know
Mhm.
how to do it. Boom, 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 boom. It's
Right.
the 20 years of knowledge that have brought me to that point that I can do that, that I can't dump into somebody else's head.
Mhm.
Okay. So there's that. So what I want, and this is going to be a hard question to answer, but that we'll use that coaching or that consulting idea of I'm happy being working in the business. What what changes to say um uh I'm gonna grow this some to so in other words, if I like doing what I as a coach, I like coaching people because I like that um individual touch. That what's going to make me change my mind to say, you know what? I don't I want to do less of the individual uh coaching, doctoring, consulting, teaching, whatever, and I want to have others do it. And because it seems like I'm really kind of changing businesses then from a I'm going to do this to I'm going to manage people.
That depends on your, here I'm going to use that word again, entrepreneurial spirit. I think when you feel that you're at a point where you can handle more and you need more, in other words, maybe whatever your product is, whether it's coaching or widgets, you basically feel that you know that you can do more, you can do better, maybe by hiring someone or buying another machine to make your widgets. So it's more of an entrepreneurial, do I want to grow spirit? Do I want to reach higher, make more money? So if you're satisfied in what you're doing in your consulting, and stay with it as long as you feel that you're also making enough money to satisfy your needs.
And I've seen talked to a whole lot of uh what I'll say is sole proprietorships. And it's normally kind of a up and down like this because they go out, they get clients, they work the clients, and while they're working the clients, they're not doing the marketing, business development, outreach
All
until
right.
they're done with them. And so it kind of and I've talked before and said, I can build you this inbound funnel, but you're going to have a whole lot of people coming in. How many can you handle? And that always seems to be the limiting factor of it's like, well, I can handle 2 or 3. And it's like,
Mhm.
then you don't need a huge inbound funnel. It's when you're going to go off and build that, that coaching network. All right. So, any last words for our listeners on hiring employees? Is there anything that any rule of thumb on X amount of business per employee, or any guidelines on when I know when I should hire that you have?
Yes, I do have a guideline. When should you hire? You should know that from your growth plan. In other words, in your head or on a business plan, you should have a pretty much a good idea already if you're going to be hiring people. So your 1 week, your 6 month, your 1 year, your 2 year plan, 3, 4, 5 year plan. You should have a good idea where you're going.
Okay, that makes sense. So what you're saying is as you build your plan. Now, the only issue I have that with that is you said 1 year, 2 year, 3 year, 4 year plans. And most people I run into when they're in that startup phase, um, is they got no business plan, they got no idea, they got they just know they want to do this, and so there is no real growth plan. It's just I'm going to go do this. And from what I've talked with people at Score, there's a whole lot of folks that walk in with no clue what they're doing. So,
That's true. Yeah, yeah. Well, here we go again with Stephen Covey. Begin with the end in mind.
yes, Mr. Covey, love him, love him. All right, folks, we'll be back again with another Pillars Principles talking about understanding the resources you have available to you and how to use them. See you soon, Ray.
You bet.